Hey, in this video, I'm going to review the ports of call from a 12-day cruise I just recently took in the British Isles on the Celebrity Eclipse. We took this trip August 3rd and we left out of Amsterdam. We selected this itinerary because, as you can see, it's completely jam-packed, and we love to cruise because it really provides an opportunity to kind of sample a region. If you're new to this channel, which I believe you are because it's a brand new channel, this is the Seasoned Traveler, and I love to travel, I love to shoot video. I thought I would put those two things together, make a channel, and provide some of my insights that might help you out. So let's dig into the ports of call for the 12-day British Isles cruise on the Celebrity Eclipse. So normally when I travel, I love to dig into the research of it, really understand what my decisions are at every single port, try to get the very most out of everything. Fortunately or fortunately on this trip, we booked it last minute. It's very hot in Florida, we wanted to get an escape, and we wanted to find a cruise that went to a little cooler climate and an area that we hadn't been to, which is becoming harder and harder for us as we've traveled more and more. And the British Isles cruise was a perfect fit, and we absolutely love Celebrity, particularly the Solstice class ships in the Aqua class. And if you want to see more about that, I do have a video that I'll link to the end about the ship we were on, the Celebrity Eclipse. One of the unique things about this particular destination is many of the ports of call have very lengthy bus rides to get to the real scenic locations. And a lot of people absolutely loved it. I only heard one negative comment about the length of the bus ride, but for us, we didn't want to do that. We wanted to explore the cities a little bit more, get into the local culture, hop on, hop off buses, walking tours, sitting in a local pub. All right, let me break down each port of call and just kind of walk through what we did and what we learned. All right, the first stop was Dover, England, and the cliffs of Dover where the cruise ship stops is amazing. In our case, we'd have been better to have a cabin on the port side, but the views are amazing as you walk off the ship. You do need to take a shuttle bus into town, and it was a total fiasco getting on the bus. It took us about 20 minutes to work through the line. Not a great first impression, but the reality was the bus driver was also the cashier, and he was dealing with 3 separate currencies, which was pretty nice that he was doing that, but it was really slowing down the line. In retrospect, I should have just hopped in a taxi, probably shared it with some other travelers, and we'd have got there much quicker and much cheaper. So after the shuttle bus, we went straight to the castle. And the castle was pretty impressive. While it was super windy, we really enjoyed our walk around there. It was a high steps day. I think we put in 12,000 steps this day just exploring this massive property. If I ever get a chance to do it over again, I'm going to do one thing different, and that's I'd take a cab directly to the World War II tunnels. And the reason I'm saying that is on the way back to the ship, we had a taxi driver, and he asked us why we didn't do that. And the reality was I didn't know. So I'll throw it out there and give you that tip. Go to the World War II tunnels. I think it's a lot more interesting than the castle might be, and you can always do the castle later. And the World War II tunnels have a really significant mark in history. It was an area where the evacuation of the Dunkirk soldiers took place. So pretty significant history there. I would have loved to have seen it. I want to pass that on to you if you're watching this video. Prioritize the World War II tunnels, then go to the castle. From my perspective, that's really all there is to do in Dover is the tunnels and the castle. All right, the next stop was Waterford, Ireland. Waterford is a tendered port, so it does take a little while to get on, so you want to plan for that. I thought the lines were a bit long, but they were orderly the way Celebrity did it. Once we were off the tender, we took a bus to the city. I didn't have really high expectations for Waterford just during the research. I know there was the Viking Triangle that I wanted to go check out. So we just walked down to that area. It was about a 15-minute walk from the bus. And the first place we entered was the Time Museum, which was just a museum of all different kinds of clocks and timepieces. Had some really interesting curators in that museum that we enjoyed talking to. And it had one of the most interesting bathrooms I've ever seen in my life. So that was a highlight of the day. So Waterford is a town with a bunch of little tiny museums in it, and all of them were pretty cool. So the Time Museum had a package that we could purchase. We were able to buy a group ticket that let us into all of the museums, and it also came with a walking tour. It turned out the walking tour was really the highlight of the day. We had a really great tour guide, all these great insights about the medieval times of Waterford. I had no idea that it was really the first settlement in all Ireland. The Vikings had a tower there called Reginald's Tower that had all kinds of history to it, and that's what I really remember of that day is walking through Reginald's Tower. I would not miss that. I would highly recommend doing that. It's really amazing how far back the history goes of that particular spot in Waterford. And then after we walked Reginald's Tower, we went to a local pub called The Reg, and I would highly recommend The Reg. Not only was the food amazing, the service was amazing, and I got some of the best seafood chowder I've ever had. Washed that down with a Guinness, and that was the end of our day. We went back to the bus. All right, the next stop was Cork, Ireland, and I was really looking forward to Cork, Ireland. I've spent a lot of time in Ireland, but always in Galway or Dublin, and I really wanted to see Cork. And so when you get off the ship in Cork, the train is literally right there. Super, super easy. It's a one-way train. You really can't screw it up. and it drops you off in the center of Cork, Ireland. And so we jumped on the hop-on, hop-off bus thinking that we would be able to kind of explore throughout the city with a little bit of narration. Turned out the hop-on, hop-off only had 4 stops. I really wouldn't recommend it, as the streets are not really designed for this big bus. And while the driving was really impressive, it was really a slow crawl. The market was kind of interesting. It was crowded and fun. I just like those kind of environments. I'm a foodie guy, and I just enjoy being around there. My wife didn't really enjoy it that much. And then the next stop was the stop called Shannon. And the really cool thing with Shannon is there's a church there called St. Anne's. It was under construction a little bit, but we were able to get by. And it had just one of the craziest walks up the tower I've ever had. It was really cool. It was really high. If you're claustrophobic, this isn't for you. Might not be for you if you've got youngsters, but it was a really cool thing to see. I'm glad we did it. And I think this video really shows well what that walk is like. We made it. We're hoping there's another way down. Was it worth it, Michelle?
It was fun.
Wow, look, you can see all those rolling hills out there. All right, now we got to go back down. This is definitely a one-way street. So when we were on the train in Cork, my wife started talking to a couple of the local ladies that were going into town to do some shopping. And she just said, hey, if you had a full day in Cork, what would you do? She said she would stop at Fota. And Fota is something I hadn't run across as I did my research on what I wanted to do in Cork. I wanted to just see the city, and Fota is about halfway between the city and the port. And it turns out it's a wildlife preserve. It's a large acreage, and it is really well done. Especially if you have younger kids, this is a perfect stop for you. Take them there. It's about a 2 or 3 hour kind of event, and it's right on the train stop. Really, really convenient. I highly recommend it. I don't know why I didn't run across it when I did my research, but I'm glad my wife asked that local, and I'm glad that she provided that information because we really had a fun day walking through there. Kind of Fota saved our day because I really wasn't too happy with Cork. The hop-on, hop-off bus I would not recommend, but I would recommend Fota. And so then we took the train back to the cruise terminal, and that town is named Cone. I might be mispronouncing that, but it's a really quaint little town, and we did some walking around there. Hey, sing it. Hey, baby. I was able to find a little pub, grab a Guinness, and we did some walking and found this really cool view with these cool houses. Kind of reminded us of Lombard Street in San Francisco. But I would highly recommend this. This little town had a lot more vibrancy than Cork did. All right, the next stop is Holyhead, and I had the lowest expectations for Holyhead. I really couldn't find anything to do there other than super long bus rides, and I just didn't want to do that. We were looking for more of a chill vacation. And so what my goal was, and call me crazy, I love to do laundry on vacation. I like to pack light, and then I like to do laundry halfway. It's just something that I've always done. My wife teases me for that, but it's just something that's kind of fun. In this case, I had researched a coin-operated laundromat. It was a 19-minute walk from the port. The walk was enjoyable. We ended up meeting up with a couple other people from the cruise ship, and they came along with us. And we found the laundromat, super, super friendly people. My wife had a great time in there doing the laundry. She met all kinds of characters from Holyhead in an hour and a half, 2 hours she was in there. We did all of our laundry for about 20 pounds. And I was able to exchange my euros for pounds at a place that was only 5 minutes away. And then I spent my time in this pub with a couple that we met on the road, and really had a nice conversation with them. So while my wife was doing the laundry, she'd asked some people, where should we go after this? And one of the ladies that was in there told her to go to the Harborfront Bistro. Apparently it had just opened up. I looked it up, and it was literally on the way back to our cruise ship. I'd have never seen it. There's absolutely no markings for it. It was basically behind what looked like a gift shop or something. We had a really amazing meal there, a great bottle of wine.
Can we get you anything else, guys?
Happy?
You're soaking your PJs, making me jealous.
Owners came out and talked to us, asked us about cruising, and I just couldn't believe the place wasn't full of cruisers. It's literally the closest restaurant to the cruise port. If all you do in Holyhead is get off the ship and go to this restaurant, you'll be super happy, trust me. All right, that was pretty incredible. Sometimes the best things are hidden gems. You got to ask a lady at a laundromat.
Laundromat, and you got to find out where the best places are.
Hey, what we learned, ask a local. What'd you think?
Oh, I thought it was just a beautiful day.
All right, thanks for watching. And if it was your goal to jump in the ocean anywhere during this 12-day trip on the British Isles, this is your spot. I'm not saying it's a great beach, but we did see a lot of people in the water there, especially if you have kids, they want to get their toes wet. Perfect stop, and you don't even have to walk into town. Okay, the next stop was totally different than Holyhead, Liverpool, England. You literally parked the boat in downtown, and it's so cool. I remember when I opened up the door, I felt like I was in San Francisco, is the vibe I got. It was cool out. It's a big, huge city, tall buildings. And most of the people that got off the ship did Beatles-related activities. We didn't. We chose to do a walking tour that had some Beatles in it, and it was really fun. It was through KR Tours. It's actually a free tour. You just tip at the end. I think we gave them 50 pounds at the end of the tour. But my only complaint with that tour is it was too long. It was 2.5 hours long. So, I mean, it was really immersive tour. We covered the entire city. We got all kinds of facts about the history of Liverpool and stuff that I would have never run across. That's why I love doing walking tours. Local guides are the absolute best. And the guide that we had just did a really bang up job going from the city's history, the Beatles, to famous things that have happened in Liverpool. It was just really a fun time. It was just a little bit long. We did 17,000 steps this day. I was a little bit worn out, but my wife was ready for more. So she ended up letting me rest at the Pig and Whistle, and what the tour guide told us is they used to call kegs pigs, and you had to whistle when you changed them to prove that you weren't drinking out of them. So that's where the pub got its name. But I had to have a beer there once I heard that story, and it didn't disappoint. After a quick beverage, we did hit the World Museum, and I really was kind of underwhelmed with that particular. Now, I had walked a lot. My wife actually really enjoyed it. As far as museums go, there were better ones coming up. All right, our next stop was Belfast in Northern Ireland, and this was the port that I was most excited about seeing. I just always wanted to see the Titanic Museum, and I've spent a lot of time in Ireland, mostly with work travel, and I've never been to Northern Ireland, and I just wanted to see what the differences was. And obviously there's a lot of history in that city, especially at the time when I was growing up. It was in the news quite a bit, and I just wanted to see it and feel it for myself. So we had a couple options to get into town, bus or train. We took the bus into town. We just thought it was a little quicker. So the first thing we did in Belfast was get a ticket for the hop-on, hop-off bus. I knew that one of the stops was the Titanic Experience, and so we kind of targeted that as our first place to stop. And we got there a little bit early. I was really confused by the ticketing process. So when we got our ticket, we had about a 2-hour wait before they would let us in, which I was a little turned off on. You could buy an anytime ticket. We could have got in right away, but they try to kind of queue you up into groups. So we had some time to burn, and it turned out that was fine. There's a bunch of stuff to see just right there. There's a tender boat, the Nordic. That was really cool to walk through. And the history of this little tender, this boat was designed to be a tender for first and second class passengers on the Titanic. That's what it was originally used for, but it has a whole history beyond that, some of it including supporting World War II efforts. It's really amazing. It took a journey, it took like a 2-hour journey at one point with absolutely no protection, with U-boats all in the area. It's just really a fascinating little boat to go see, and when I say little, it's actually pretty big. Just gives you an idea how big Titanic was. We finally got into the Titanic Experience, and we did opt for the audio tour. We typically do that when we can. It was £5. I would highly recommend it. So one thing to note about Titanic Experience is I was thinking there'd be a lot of artifacts, things that were on the ship, and there was some of that, but really it's a storytelling experience. And the audio guide really made that better for us. There were plaques that you could sit and read in a horde of people, but we were just able to listen to the story as we were able to walk through all of the different locations in the experience. So when I left that, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be going in, but I was really satisfied with the experience that we had. I thought it was a little expensive, but I also thought it was worth it at the end. So we got back on the hop-on, hop-off bus. So we stopped at the St. George's stop, and the market was okay. It was super busy. We were just kind of looking for a lunch, kind of rest our feet a little bit, and that just didn't happen at the market, but I did enjoy walking through it. We walked down the street a little bit and went to Beatles, which was a pub that the hop-on, hop-off bus mentioned was the narrowest pub in Ireland, something to that fact. But anyway, it was super cool. We had great service. Somehow we got lucked out and got a super good table in this really busy pub and got great service, and were able to rest our feet a bit. But I would highly recommend a stop at Beatles if that's something you're into. While we were at Beatles, we just asked our server, where can we get good fish and chips? And she directed us to a place called Fish City, which was just a few minutes away. And I gotta say, Fish City blew my mind. We ended up getting the mixed seafood fish and chips, and it was absolutely incredible. I highly recommend Fish City when you're in Belfast. So we hopped back on the hop-on, hop-off bus to complete our trip. Before we got back on the ship, we just had to stop at a little chocolate store and satisfy our sweet tooth. All right, next stop, Glasgow, Scotland. Really cool place. So you can take a bus or a train. We chose a bus just because it was a little quicker. We didn't want to wait for the train, and the bus just happened to be right there. In Glasgow, I didn't really have anything planned, so we went directly to the tourist information area and just asked the lady what she would do if she had a full day. And she directed us to a museum. And to get to the museum, we had to take a subway. I absolutely love any kind of train travel, subway travel. I'm really into it. I love being in a foreign country and just trying to figure out how to get from A to B. So we bought a ticket. This subway was incredibly clean and incredibly easy to use. And it popped us up in this little college neighborhood. It was about a 5-minute walk to the museum. As we walked into the museum, there was a huge bagpipe group playing, which was really a fun surprise to listen to. Fun way to start our entry into the museum. And this museum really blew me away. This was the best museum that I've seen in a long time. I really thought it was super eclectic. I thought it was really interesting the way different rooms were kind of sorted out. Sometimes it took a little while to figure out what progression they were trying to show or kind of the story they were trying to tell. As you leave the museum, there's actually a plaque that kind of explains what their process is. It's completely different from any museum I've ever seen, and it was really fun to see some of these old artifacts. So as we came out of the museum, we saw a hop-on, hop-off bus right there. We thought about jumping on, but it only had about a quarter of the way to go, and we were starting to run out of time. So if I had to do Glasgow all over again, I would have gone the hop-on, hop-off bus and gone to and one of the stops would have definitely been the museum. The reason we didn't was we had a bad experience in Cork, and so we went direct. I think in this case, we'd have been better on the hop-on, hop-off bus, just based off some conversations we had with other people. I did really enjoy the subway, but it was really too direct for someone who likes to wander around the city. And then before we went back to the ship, we did our usual. We found a little pub to rest our feet, grab a Guinness, and then we ended up meeting a really cool guy who happened to be in the band. Again, super impressed with how friendly everybody is in this area of the world. It was really, really enjoyable to meet a lot of locals on this trip. All right, the last city was Inverness. Again, I didn't have a lot planned. A lot of people went to Loch Ness here and really enjoyed it. We had to take a small bus through this really ugly port. It was a little strange, but it was really a short bus ride. And one thing that I found really unique about Inverness is once you got off the bus, there were multiple tour companies right there available, and we were able to select the tour we wanted. My wife wanted to see the Dunrobin Castle, and so we were able to take the North tour from a taxi driver who just happened to be right there. It turned out to be a really interesting character, and we really enjoyed our day with him. So if you didn't book anything in Inverness, don't worry. There's a lot of options right there, but definitely get out of the town of Inverness. When we came back from our tour, there was literally nothing to do there. We looked all over the place, and we couldn't find anything. So let me explain the North tour. So our taxi driver took us to a really cool cathedral. Apparently this is a cathedral Madonna got married in at one point in her life. That aside, it was super cool. And then after that, he took us to the Dunrobin Castle, and the castle was really cool. We really enjoyed the history. It's the 5th Duke of Scotland's castle, so there's a lot of different family artifacts and history. It's very interesting to see how these people lived back in the day in this massive property. And one thing interesting about Dunrobin is it's an old, like 13th century castle that had then been built on. So you could kind of see different building styles and architecture all kind of mixed in. It wasn't rubble. As you can see from this videos, it was lived in. Like you could get the feel for what it was like to live in this massive property. Every window you look out was pretty spectacular, and the grounds were just incredible. One of the really cool experiences we had here at this castle was there was a falcon show that we happened to catch. It was really interesting to hear about the history of falconing and how they used these animals to hunt back in the day. It was unexpected, really unique, really enjoyed my time watching that. So the castle took us a couple hours to explore. We still had some time left. On the way back, we stopped at the Ball Blair Distillery. This is a really small distillery. I ended up getting myself a little souvenir from that stop. But I really enjoyed it. A lot of other people went to a different distillery, Glenmore, which was quite a bit bigger, quite a bit more crowded. As you can see, there was nobody here at Ball Blair. I really had an enjoyable time trying a couple of different Scotch whiskies. So this whole tour took us about 5 hours. If you take the South tour, it's a little bit longer. It's an 8-hour tour, and people who took that really enjoyed it. You know, the one thing about Inverness is you have to take a tour. Definitely get out of the city. All right, that's my review of the ports of call for the 12-day British Isles cruise aboard the Celebrity Eclipse. Absolutely loved the trip. The culture, the people, the food. It was really an amazing trip, and I love that it was jam-packed. In the 12 days, we were at 8 separate ports. I don't mind a day at sea once in a while, but when I take a cruise, I really want to see as much as I can. It's kind of like ordering off the appetizer menu of a fine restaurant. You just want to sample it all, and this cruise really allowed us to sample all of the UK and Ireland, and I really enjoyed it. Great time, highly recommend it, and I love Celebrity Eclipse. All right, so if you like this content, please hit like, please hit subscribe. This is a brand new channel, The Seasoned Traveler. And I'm just trying to provide some of the insights of the experiences that I've had. So hope you like it. Stick around.